I'm a good procrastinator. But I have people around me who say, "Hey, remember this? Did you look at this? And I know you haven't opened this email yet, so I've already opened it for you and I've highlighted all the points that you need to see." I just get to focus on being the most authentic version of myself, and I let them do the rest.
Happy Wednesday, my winners and goal getters. How's it going? Welcome back to another edition of the Getting the Win Show. I am your host, Mellissa T, the procrastination bully, reminding you to hashtag get on that, okay? But this week's episode is, like all others, a special one. I'm interviewing in this episode the beautiful lady on this book cover right here, national best-selling author Mignon Francois, who's the founder of the Cupcake Collection, which is the number one cupcake company in all of Nashville, Tennessee, as well as New Orleans, Louisiana. Now, the reason I'm coming to you with this intro is that this interview was done a while back, and the New Orleans location has since been closed. However, the reason I'm releasing the episode at this point is that she also very recently opened a brand new location in Hendersonville, Tennessee. So shout out and congratulations to Mignon for her new location. She is continuing to blow up. And in this interview, we talk about not only her best-selling book, Made from Scratch, Finding Success Without a Recipe, but we also go into the importance of beating procrastination by finding a team and finding a team that can complement your blind spots and your limitations. She goes in depth about how she was able to build out her team for her company and how she was able to beat procrastination. As I'm sure you heard in the intro, she's a really good one. But hope this interview blesses you. Check it out. As promised, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Mignon Francois. Such an honor to have you on the show. Welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time.
I'm excited to be here with you.
Thank you so much. So, as you've seen, and guys, as you've seen, I always have Mignon's book behind me when I'm recording my episodes. Your book Made from Scratch has been an inspiration for me, as well as I'm sure thousands of people that have had the chance to read it. One of the things that I know you mentioned in your book and even in some of the live events, one of the things you said was you're kind of known for starting and stopping other business ideas that you may have had before. So,
Mm-hmm.
Before landing on the Cupcake Collection and following this one all the way through. For the folks who may not
Mm-hmm.
know or haven't heard your story, kind of what do you feel caused you to finish this one compared to the other
Yeah.
ideas?
So God was waking me up at 3:17 every morning, telling me what he wanted me to do. And the more I got up to hear what God was saying, the more I knew that he was calling me into something. And as he was getting ready to stop awakening me, there were two Bible verses that I remember toward the end of our morning time together. There was Deuteronomy chapter 30 and Joshua 1 and 9. And what it said is, I set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Choose life.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, listen, I've given you this business, I've given you that business, I've given you this thing, and you start them and you never follow through. So if you don't follow through with this one, I'm not giving you anything else. And I've learned in the process as I've become successful here that you don't have to have a ton of different ideas. You just have to have one God idea. And that one God idea can be transformed into so many things. There's so many opportunities we have now doing this one idea. And God allows me to have other connections to other people to show other people, hey, this is the way, walk ye in it. You know what I mean? It doesn't have
Right.
to be that I've done your particular business before, but food business is food business. And so my son has this wonderful idea that we had worked on for quite some time. And he kind of went to another company and we kind of put it on the back shelf and we just started talking about it again this week. I'm like, what business can we do that we're sort of already in? And he brought his business back up, which we bought the, licensure for the name, the trademarks, all of those proprietary sort of things for it in order to start it. and we just kind of set on it. And now we can do it, but now we're cautious not to start on something that we can't execute well. So I think
Mhm.
that's the difference. I heard God say, I'm done with you.
Ooh,
And now I know what it looks like to please the Lord. And I realized in the process, oh, you weren't afraid of failing at this. You were afraid of being successful at this, because
mm,
success requires that you show up every day. Success requires that when everybody's having a good time, you might have to leave the party and go over here because work is required of you. Or you might not feel like showing up to the party and you have to show up to the party anyway. I'm an extroverted introvert. I gotta go in and rejuvenate from all of the hoopla and the foolishness. I gotta go in and take my rest and my break, whereas some of my friends are rejuvenated and fueled by all of the activity, and that's just not my life. And so having a successful business requires you to know, like, I have to set boundaries for things. That's uncomfortable.
that's very, don't miss that, guys. She just
Yeah.
mentioned setting boundaries. That is very important as it relates to beating procrastination, because there are a lot of distractions that could crowd up the schedule. And remember, as I always share, like it's not always about time management. We all get the same 24 hours in a day. It's about emotion management. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that in terms of
Yeah.
boundaries. That's really important. We're gonna skip around the questions a little bit because you touched on a question that comes a little bit later, but kind of talk about the importance of also accountability, because even with the boundaries, like you sometimes it helps to either hold yourself accountable or be surrounded by people who hold you accountable. So kind of talk about that.
Yeah, I learned in this process of building a business that was successful that I had to let people do the job I hired them for. If
Mm,
I'm gonna be the smartest person in the room all the time, then I might as well be the only person in the room. I wanna utilize people for where their gifts and talents are, and the more you allow people to be responsible, the more they'll show up and be responsible. And so I've learned in the process, and it was hard. It was not easy to start letting people do their job. I didn't want them to drop balls. I didn't want them to do it differently than I was gonna do it. And the thing about it is just because you don't do it like me doesn't mean you did it wrong. It means I did it differently. And as long
right.
as we get to the same end goal, then everything's okay. And so I was running a little bit late to get into the chair with you today because we were doing a walkthrough, and one of my older sons and my baby son were the masterminds behind how this is going to work. One of them executed while the other one said was the expert. This is how it should be done. And I could tell that the older one really wanted us to love it. He really wanted us to love it. He wasn't getting that we love it look on our faces. And so he was like, y'all love it, right? It's good. Y'all good. And we love it. We love it. And then we get in the car and we immediately start laughing like, now here's where we talk trash, but really we were just kidding around. At the end of the day, he's done a good job. It's just different from how we would have executed. And giving you the space to say, you know what, good job. And I'm going to let this, develop however it needs to develop. And I'm going to love it all the way, even though I wasn't the one to put my stamp on it. Nobody wants to work for somebody who doesn't allow them to be who they are. And I
Right.
just wanna be a place where people can thrive and flourish into whatever God has called them to be, because I don't have to be in control of it.
So important. That's a very important point, because that could
Mm.
be another point of procrastination too. So in a previous episode, I talked about the 5 procrastination styles. One of them is the busybody, like the
Mhm.
person that ends up missing the deadline because they're doing too much.
Yeah.
So very important point on that. She's like, that's me. I feel you. I feel you. So that's actually a great segue into a question I had concerning your team, because the Cupcake Collection is the #1 source for cupcakes in New Orleans and Nashville. So huge congrats on that. Let me start with
Yeah.
that.
We
But talk,
also have a top ranking in the entire nation too as well. We ship nationwide, so we're voted as one of the best in the country.
yes, that's what I'm talking about. So talk about your team in terms of making sure that like procrastination is never an issue as it relates to them. Like how do you guys keep perpetual productivity going?
Mhm. I think it does come down to when someone comes onto our team, I test them personality wise. Not
Hmm.
only in the interview process do I want to see if you're going to mesh well with my team. Like if I know in this interview, one of the questions I might ask is what's on your iPod? Your if I was gonna just open up your radio on your phone, what am I gonna listen to? I gotta make sure that you have something you can talk about or relate to the people who are already killing it in the game. And then once
Mm,
I make sure that you're gonna mesh with them, I'm gonna also do some personality testing and some character testing on you to see, what science can tell me about how you react or interact in situation. And we don't want, that there's certain things called a disc test where they,
yeah.
how you show up analytically or creatively or, how you show up in the world, but we use a lot of strengths testing. We want to see where your strengths are. We don't want to hire people who have the same strengths we already have. We're
Right.
trying to fill in the gaps wherever we're weak. We want people to be strong. And
Right.
so finding out from the beginning, and usually people have not had the opportunity, at least in my experience, to know what these strengths or what their character strengths are. People tell you what your character flaws are, and then you're
Real
spending your
quick.
whole life trying to get over these character flaws. And my thing is let them be flaws. Like there's a verse in the Bible, he who is guilty, let him be guilty still. Who is just, let him be just still. My who is weak, let him just be weak still wherever he's weak. Because I want to focus on where you're strong. And I want to buttress those strengths that you have and make you even stronger in those places. So if your biceps are on fleek, let's just, hit them out of the park. We're not going to worry about the places where you're weak. And that makes us perpetually move the needle because well, the other part we know is we do an Enneagram test. So it's a personality test that basically looks at how you grew up, how your mother
Mm,
handled some
hmm.
things that are just because of who you are, because of the environment that you came up in. And
Yeah.
so we can communicate with each other based on whatever those Enneagram numbers are. We've been well versed in our own Enneagram number. So now we can communicate to you how I am, how I show up. This is how I look when I'm not healthy or when I'm angry, when I'm hurt, when I'm devastated. And this is how I look when I'm doing well, when I'm good, when I'm happy and when I'm thriving. And so we know not to take certain things into our own feelings just because so and so got that look on her face again. Well, you know that that's just her resting face. Like,
Right.
that's how she looks. And so that has helped us move the needle a lot is knowing how to communicate our needs and our strengths.
Absolutely. So let me narrow the focus down to you specifically. So how do you like with the success of the Cupcake Collection and everything you've got going on? Because not only are you running the Cupcake Collection, but now you're also a national and possibly even international speaker. You're speaking on
Mhm.
stages, you're doing the motivation stuff, you're also doing some ministry stuff. I love the fact that you know, keep your promise to God no matter where you go to share that message. But how are you kind of remaining as productive as possible with everything that you're juggling?
Yeah, because I only have to focus on me. I don't have to worry about anything else because I did the work to find out who they were.
Mhm.
So I get to leave that there and I only have to show up in my strength. So I don't have to worry about where I'm weak. I am very weak when it comes to I'm a good procrastinator. But I have people around me who say, "Hey, remember this? Did you look at this? And I know you haven't opened this email yet, so I've already opened it for you and I've highlighted all the points that you need to see." I just get to focus on being the most authentic version of myself and I let them do the rest. Does that answer?
Yeah,
Y-
it
I I
does.
I want I want to be surrounded by A players who are going to make sure that I get the win because my win
Absolutely.
is their win. So the way
Absolutely.
I get to be focused is I get to remind them, hey guys, we out here winning. That means we all are about to bring in a win. And so that when I bring in money, they do too. When I get a big client, it's a big client for them too. They don't just make 7.25 or whatever. I don't even know what minimum wage is. Like, I don't even know what it is because
Mm-hmm.
I'm not paying it out. There was a time when that was my whole staff. But, and I say that with gratitude to God that I've been able to have a team that I get to celebrate and say, you did so awesome. And now I want to bring you in to some of the value that I'm experiencing because of the work you're doing. And that allows me to be razor focused on what I want to do or what I got going.
Important takeaway. You know what I mean? Surrounding yourself with people that can help you achieve the goal. You know, one of the principles, like you and I are familiar with it, Mignon, but the principle of who, not how. Because a lot of
Hmm.
times, in terms of them flaws, just as you said
Yeah.
earlier, like we'll spend forever trying to make up for them or fix them when the truth is another person who's already really good at it can save time. Just
Yeah.
kind of shave it off. So
Yeah.
definitely, thank you for sharing that. That's a really important takeaway. Even if it's somebody you cannot hire, don't feel like
Hmm.
it has to be somebody you can hire, but maybe it's a situation where you can barter with them. Maybe you have
Hmm.
expertise that they don't. So
Yeah.
that's a really good trade-off.
And you'll be quite surprised at how many people will do stuff for you at little to no cost or no cost at all, just because of the experience or just because you never know what somebody else is trying to build or what you're bringing to the table just by being you for them. And so that has been an experience I've had many people who just say, I just want to work. I just want to be connected to you. And I never want to take from people. You know what I mean? So it's always
Yeah,
hard for me to take people up on those free offers. But oftentimes you just be surprised at how many people you can bless just the close proximity of who you know and what you're connected to that you can also open the doors for.
absolutely. And that can go both ways, y'all. Like maybe it's a situation where you know somebody that they might want to gain proximity to and you can afford them that access. So
Hmm.
yeah,
That's good.
one of the things I point out is taking time to take full inventory of all your resources.
Hmm.
Because folks who are recovering procrastinators like to look at what's missing or what hasn't been done yet or what hasn't been accomplished yet. But take full inventory of where you are, who you know, all those resources you currently have. That's very important.
Hmm.
But one of the questions I wanted to, as we're starting to wrap up a little bit, talk about how rewarding it is for you that you did see this one all the way through. I mean,
Hmm.
procrastinators, like that's one of the big nitpicks that, that carries over, like, dang, I didn't get to finish that thing. Or you start something, didn't finish that next one, start the next one, didn't finish it. How does it feel to see this one all the way through and not only see it through, but now you have a team that can experience it with you and help you grow it?
Yeah, I have the 30,000 feet view of what it takes now. And it's actually not as hard as you think to get the thing off the
Ooh,
ground, whatever it is. It's like when you break the glass ceiling, then the sky becomes the limit as to what you can create. And having seen this one to fruition, it's bigger than I ever imagined it could be. And it's more accessible than I ever imagined it could be. So in my head, it was never all of this. But once I broke this glass ceiling, the capacity for the room grew that much higher.
ooh,
And once I did that, it's like, oh, because now you can look down at the other floors that you've walked on, right? And you can say, oh, yeah, I remember when I got to that phase. I thought I couldn't get to the next phase. And I got to the next phase, like, oh my gosh, I did finish that next phase. That was easier, but I'll never be able to get those next two phases. And boom, boom, you're up here now. And you realize once you completed something, you know how to go back through it differently. And sometimes you have to take two steps back before you can go three steps forward. And that's the frustrating part of growing. But once you get through climbing the ladder of success, you can look back on the ladder and say, guys, listen, if you just get somebody to hold the ladder, you'll climb much faster. Or if
that's
if
good.
you don't climb in the rain, you won't slip so much on the ladder. You know what I mean?
That's good.
I know these are like metaphors, but I hope there are things that people can use just physically in your life to say, I can apply that into my place of procrastination.
Oh, absolutely. And in terms of the not climbing the ladder in the rain, the practical application for that is being careful about the conditions in which you execute, whether that's you trying to do something under stress or you trying to do something tired, because that
Yeah.
also affects how you execute. So yeah, I totally understand what you're saying with that.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And then having people hold the ladder, absolutely. That goes back to what we were talking about with having people help you, like the who, not
Yeah.
how concept, because that saves time. And being able
Mhm.
to trust people too, because what you said
Love
earlier,
how you just broke that down and made it totally practical. This is
yes,
the gift of Mellissa.
thank you. Yeah, so you mentioned earlier like the difference between not considering a person doing it wrong, it's simply them doing it different and trusting them to do it differently as long as the task is executed and goes
Hmm.
forward.
Hmm.
So very, very important. So I'm gonna open up the floor to you in case you have any final thoughts to share with our audience.
Um, I would say that a lot of times procrastination is because you think you don't have everything. You think you've got to get some more tools. You think you have to get some more education. You think you have to get more connections. And I would say all you have is all you need to get you from where you are to where you want to be. All
Mm,
you have to do is start. Procrastinators stop themselves from starting. And if you would just start and then keep putting one foot in front of the other, keep making a move, keep having a task on your to-do list, keep waking up every day with intention to say, I'm moving the needle forward on this gift that God is giving me. And that has been the greatest gift for me is showing up to my business. I wanted some big commercial building somewhere. I had a house that was zoned commercial and residential with a room and a door specifically on it that would allow me to have my business open up right where I lived. That was the most beautiful gift from God. And I was so running away from it. But God said,
mm,
I need you to go right here in this room where you are. There were times that my children were going to need me to be home after school, that having this business right there was important. There was going to be times when we weren't going to have the money to make ends meet. Having this business right where we lived allowed us to kill two birds with one stone. Had I been in some other big commercial space, and the business not taking off in the beginning like I thought it would, I would have had probably lost everything, not only the business building, but the home where I live. This allowed me to save both. So I would say start where you are to get to where you want to be. Sometimes we want to get to where we want to be in order to begin. It's like we want to begin
mm,
at the ending spot, but if you begin with the end in mind,
that
you
part.
you're building towards that end, and that's what I hope people hear. Stop waiting for some major event to happen in order to start living your life, because you'll find out you've gotten to the end of your life and you did nothing with the time in between those two important numbers. What will you do with the dash? There's the day you were born and the day you will die, and the only thing that changes is what you do with the time in between.
Mic drop. Absolutely. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't heard of it already, this is Mignon's book, made from scratch. Awesome. Finding success without a recipe. Although, what the bonus, the unspoken bonus, I love calling things unspoken bonus, is that you actually found the recipe while living through it, which I think is
Yeah.
amazing. Like that's the powerful gem with that. I reiterate to our audience all the time, like there's certain things that won't unlock unless you start. Like there's certain things you
Mhm.
won't find out unless you start and move
Mhm.
forward.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Mignon. It's an honor to have you on the show. And
Thank you for
hey,
letting me do this. I feel
absolutely.
like I've accomplished something if I'm not considered a procrastinator anymore.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, you broke through it beautifully. So thank you so much for breaking it down for our audience too. We appreciate you. And the door is open. Like if you ever want to come back on the show, we'd love to have you back.
Thank
Awesome.
you for that.
Yeah. So thank you so much. In the meantime, guys, make sure you're following Mignon if you don't already. You can find her on IG and, let them know where else they can find you and where they can find the book.
My favorite place to hang out is on Instagram at Mignon.Francois. They can order cupcakes from the Cupcake Collection 24 hours a day at thecupcakecollection.com. On Twitter, we are at Cupcake Tweets. And on Facebook, I am the Cupcake Collection and I am Mignon Francois.
Amen, y'all. Make sure y'all tear up them cupcakes. They taste great. They taste great. Mignon, thank you so much for your time. Take care. It's been awesome.
Was that not an awesome interview? If you loved it, be sure to like, share, and of course, subscribe to this show here, the Getting the Win Show, right here on YouTube. It's at Getting the Win. And you can follow me on Instagram, Pinterest, and Threads at Getting the Win Show on those platforms. But yeah, be sure to subscribe and click that bell icon so you get all the notifications so you see everything that we put out. And of course, you saw the information on the screen for how to follow Mignon and how to order your cupcakes from the Cupcake Collection. And by all means, follow her on the socials too. She puts out some awesome stuff. And she also has a broadcast channel on Instagram, so you can actually join that once you follow her. Hey, get that goodness, man. Like she puts out incredible content. She's a load of value. She's an amazing person. You'll be blessed by her. But in the meantime, be sure to, again, hashtag get on that. Whatever your luxury item is, whatever that is that you're working on. And if you're stuck, remember to hit me up, DM me on Instagram, or comment below this video if you're watching it on YouTube. In the meantime, have a blessed Wednesday and a blessed rest of your week. Peace out.
And be sure to check out the merch shop. If you are curious about the shirt, you want one for yourself, you can go to gettingthewingear.com. That way you see this shirt, you'll see a bunch of other accessories as well. We've got hoodies, we've got sweats, we've got all the gifts that you could possibly want to buy for yourself and for your folks to get the message out about being as productive as possible and staying true to yourself. Because the mission of this show is to turn procrastinators into producers. That's why I always task you guys to hashtag get on that. Make sure you're on top of your luxury item. And that way you can rock the gear to remind the world that you are all about that luxury item. You are all about getting things done, getting the goals instead of simply setting them.